I pressed my hand against my swollen belly, tears streaming down my face as I stared at the man I thought loved me. Dante's dark eyes were cold, emotionless, as he stood in the doorway of our bedroom, holding our newborn son. "You actually thought I loved you?" He laughed bitterly. "Kai, you were just my heat toy, something to use when my rut hit. Did you really believe an alpha like me would bond with someone like you?" I reached for our baby, my arms trembling. "Please, Dante, don't do this." But he was already turning away, our son's tiny cries fading as he walked out. That was the last time I saw either of them. Until 5 years later, when fate brought us crashing back together. If you want to hear uncensored, too hot for YouTube stories, check out my Patreon in the description. Tell us where you're watching from and subscribe. The rain hammered against the windows of the penthouse, each drop like a drum beat, counting down to the moment my world would shatter. I stood in the hallway outside Dante's study, one hand pressed protectively over my 6-month belly, the other clutching a tray with his favorite tea. I had spent the afternoon preparing it perfectly, adding just the right amount of honey the way he liked. My omega instincts hummed with contentment at the thought of caring for my alpha, of carrying his child, of building the family we had whispered about in the dark. The study door was slightly open, warm light spilling into the corridor. I was about to knock when I heard his voice, low and amused, speaking to someone on the phone. Dante's best friend, I realized, Riker. They had known each other since childhood, two powerful alphas who ruled the city's business world with iron fists. What I heard next turned my blood to ice. "Yeah, the Omega I told you about," Dante said, his tone casual, almost bored. "Kai. Blonde. Pretty enough, serves his purpose. No, don't be ridiculous. You know I don't do commitment, he's just convenient." My breath caught. The tray trembled in my hands. Riker must have asked something because Dante laughed, the sound sharp and cutting. A heat toy, basically. "You know how it is when rut hits and you need an Omega nearby. He's decent at it, I'll give him that. Knows how to take care of an alpha's needs without being too clingy." Well, he was, until he got pregnant. The teacup rattled against the saucer. My vision blurred. "The kid?" Dante continued, oblivious to my presence just outside the door. "Yeah, it's mine. DNA doesn't lie, but that doesn't mean anything. Plenty of alphas have children they don't raise. I'll set up a trust fund, make sure they're financially stable, but I'm not playing house. I have a company to run, a reputation to maintain. Can you imagine what the board would think if I actually bonded with some no-name Omega? My father would lose his mind. Each word was a knife sliding between my ribs. I thought about the nights Dante had held me close, his dark hair falling across his forehead as he whispered promises against my skin. I thought about the morning he had scented me so thoroughly that other alphas wouldn't come near me for days. I thought about the afternoon he had pressed his hand to my belly and smiled when our baby kicked for the first time. All lies, all performance, all meaningless. Riker said something I couldn't hear, and Dante's response made me want to vomit. "Love?" Christ, Riker, you're getting soft in your old age. I don't love him. I barely even like him most days. He's too emotional, too needy, always wanting reassurance. But he's good at what he does, and until I find a proper Omega from a good family to bond with, he'll do. After the kid is born, I'll probably phase him out. Set him up in an apartment somewhere, give him enough money to keep quiet and move on. It's not like he has anywhere else to go anyway. His family disowned him when he presented as Omega. The tray slipped from my numb fingers. It hit the floor with a crash that echoed through the penthouse, porcelain shattering, tea spreading across the hardwood like blood. The conversation stopped abruptly. Footsteps. Then Dante appeared in the doorway, phone still in his hand, His black hair perfectly styled, his expensive suit unwrinkled. When he saw me standing there, saw the broken tray at my feet, saw the tears streaming down my face, his expression didn't change at all. "Kai," he said flatly, "how long have you been standing there?" I couldn't speak. My throat had closed completely. All I could do was stare at him, at this stranger wearing the face of the man I loved. He sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Look, whatever you heard, you're overreacting. You're emotional because of the pregnancy. Why don't you go lie down and we can talk about this later when you're calmer?" The dismissiveness in his tone broke something inside me. I found my voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. "You don't love me." It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact, hollow and dead. Dante's jaw tightened. "This isn't the time for this conversation. You called me a heat toy." My voice grew stronger, fueled by a rage I didn't know I possessed. "You told Riker you were going to get rid of me after the baby is born. You said I was just convenient." He didn't deny it. That was somehow worse than if he had lied. "You're being dramatic," he said instead. "I've given you everything. This penthouse, clothes, food, medical care. You have no job, no income, no family. What exactly did you think this relationship was?" "I thought," I whispered, my hand moving to cradle my belly, "that you loved me, that we were building a family, that when you held me during my heats and promised to take care of me, you meant it." Something flickered in his eyes. Regret? Guilt? It was gone too quickly to identify. "Kai," he started, his tone gentler now, almost pitying. "You have to understand. In my world, omegas like you don't end up with alphas like me. Not permanently. There are expectations, social circles, family obligations. My father has already arranged meetings with several high-profile omega families. This was always temporary." The baby kicked, as if protesting his words. I wrapped both arms around my belly protectively. "Get out," I said quietly. Dante blinked. "What?" "Get out of my sight. Now, before I do something we'll both regret." For the first time, uncertainty crossed his features. "Don't be ridiculous. This is my penthouse. Where exactly do you think you're going to go?" "I don't know, but I can't look at you right now." We stood there in tense silence, the shattered tea set between us like a physical representation of everything that had broken. Finally, Dante straightened his shoulders and smoothed his tie. "Fine. I have a meeting anyway. We'll discuss this when you've calmed down and can be rational." He stepped over the broken porcelain and walked past me, his expensive cologne washing over me. It used to make me feel safe. Now it made me feel sick. And Kai? He paused at the elevator. "Clean that up before someone steps on it." Then he was gone, and I was alone with the wreckage. I don't know how long I stood there. Long enough for the tea to seep into the wood, staining it dark. Long enough for my legs to start shaking. Long enough for the shock to wear off and the reality to settle in like lead in my stomach. He never loved me. 6 months of what I thought was a relationship, of building trust, of falling deeper every day. It had all been one-sided. I was a convenience, a heat toy, something to be used and discarded when he found someone better. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from my only friend, another Omega named Milo, who worked at the cafe where Dante and I had first met. "Hey, Sunshine, how's my favorite pregnant person? Still craving those weird pickle and chocolate combinations? Want me to bring some by?" Milo. Sweet, kind Milo, who had been there when my family disowned me for presenting as Omega instead of Alpha like they wanted. Who had helped me find work when I had nothing. Who had warned me that Dante Blackwood was known for going through Omegas like disposable toys. I had thought I was different. I had thought Dante saw something special in me. I was such a fool. My fingers moved across the screen before I could second guess myself. Can I stay with you for a few days? I'll explain later. Please? The response came immediately. Always. You have a key. Come whenever you need to. I looked around the penthouse at the expensive furniture and art that had never really felt like mine. At the nursery, Dante and I had set up together, the walls painted a soft cream, the crib already assembled and waiting. I had spent hours in that room, folding tiny clothes and imagining our future. What future? The one where he set me up in an apartment like a kept secret, where he visited occasionally when he needed stress relief, but otherwise lived his real life with someone deemed acceptable? No, I wouldn't live like that. My child wouldn't grow up watching his father treat his mother like a shameful secret. Moving mechanically, I went to the bedroom and pulled out a small suitcase. I packed only what was truly mine, the clothes I had brought when I moved in, a few books, the ultrasound photos of my baby. Everything else, all the expensive gifts Dante had given me, I left untouched. I didn't want them anymore. They felt tainted now, payment for services rendered rather than tokens of affection. As I zipped the suitcase closed, I caught sight of myself in the full-length mirror. Blonde hair tangled and tear-stained, purple shadows under my eyes from too many sleepless nights, my body swollen with pregnancy. I looked exhausted and heartbroken and utterly lost. But I also looked determined. I would not be Dante Blackwood's dirty secret. I would not raise my child in the shadow of his shame. Whatever happened next, however hard it got, at least I would have my dignity. I left the penthouse without looking back, taking the service elevator to avoid running into Dante if he returned. The doorman gave me a curious look as I walked out into the rain with my single suitcase, but he didn't try to stop me. Why would he? I was just the Omega who lived with Dante, not important enough to question. Milo lived in a small apartment across town, the kind of place where the heating barely worked and the neighbors were loud, but the rent was cheap and Milo had a spare room. When he opened the door and saw me standing there soaked and shaking, he didn't ask questions. He just pulled me inside and wrapped me in a warm embrace. "Tell me what happened," he said gently, guiding me to the couch. So I did. I told him everything, from the conversation I'd overheard to Dante's cold dismissal of my feelings. By the end, I was crying again, great heaving sobs that shook my whole body. Milo held me through it all, one hand rubbing soothing circles on my back. When I finally calmed down enough to breathe normally, he spoke. "I'm so sorry, Kai. I wish I'd been wrong about him." "I know." I hiccuped. I really thought he cared. The way he looked at me sometimes, the way he held me, it felt real. Maybe it was real for him in these moments, but that doesn't mean it was real enough. Milo squeezed my shoulder. "What are you going to do now?" "I don't know." I looked down at my belly, at the visible movement as my baby shifted. "I need to figure out how to support myself and the baby. I'll have to find work, but who's going to hire a pregnant Omega with no degree and no job history? You'll figure it out. You're stronger than you think." Milo stood up. "For now, you're staying here. We'll take it one day at a time." That night, I lay in Milo's tiny guest room and tried to plan my future. I had some savings, not much, but enough to survive for a few months if I was careful. After the baby was born, I could look for work, maybe at another cafe or a bookstore. Something flexible that would allow me to be there for my child. I refused to think about Dante, refused to wonder if he had come home to find me gone, if he cared at all that I had left. He had made his position clear. I was temporary, replaceable, unimportant. Well, he would never get the chance to discard me. I had done it first. 3 weeks passed. I heard nothing from Dante, which shouldn't have hurt but did anyway. No calls, no texts, no attempts to find me. It confirmed everything I already knew. I truly had meant nothing to him. I started working part-time at a small bookstore owned by an elderly Omega named Mrs. Chen. She was kind and understanding about my pregnancy, letting me sit when I got tired and never complaining when I needed frequent bathroom breaks. The pay wasn't much, but combined with my savings, it was enough. I tried not to think about the penthouse, the soft bed, the unlimited food, the feeling of safety I had foolishly believed in. I tried not to think about Dante's hands on my skin, his voice in my ear, the way he used to pull me close in the middle of the night as if he couldn't stand to be apart from me even in sleep. All lies, all performance. I had to remember that. But late at night, alone in the dark, my hand on my moving belly, I couldn't help but wonder if any of it had been real for him. Even just a little. I was closing up the bookstore one evening when my water broke. The first contraction hit, stealing my breath. Too early. 3 weeks too early. Mrs. Chen found me and called an ambulance. The delivery was brutal. Hours of pain, crying out for an alpha who would never come. The nurses tried to comfort me, but couldn't give me what I needed. Finally, I heard it. My newborn son's cry. They placed him on my chest. This tiny, perfect being with dark hair and beautiful eyes. "Hello, my love," I whispered through tears. "I'm your daddy. I promise I'll never let anyone make you feel unwanted. Perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes, healthy despite coming early." Then I noticed the nurse on the phone. When she came to my bedside, her expression was apologetic. "Mr. Kai, hospital policy requires us to notify the father. Mr. Blackwood is listed as the alpha parent. Dante knows? He's on his way." "No, I don't want him here." "I understand, but he has legal rights. We can't prevent him visiting." Before I could argue further, the door burst open. Dante stood in the doorway, his black hair disheveled as if he had been running his hands through it repeatedly, his expensive suit rumpled, his dark eyes wild. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Kai," he breathed. I turned my face away, pressing back against the hospital bed as if I could disappear into it. "Get out." "Where is he? Where's my son? Your son?" I laughed bitterly. 3 weeks ago, you told your best friend this baby meant nothing to you, that you were going to set me up in an apartment and move on with your life. Now suddenly you care?" Dante flinched as if I had struck him. That's not." He stopped, running a hand through his hair again. "I need to explain." "There's nothing to explain. I've heard enough." I saw the nurse holding my baby across the room and my voice broke. "Please just leave us alone. I can't do that." Dante stepped further into the room. "Kai, please just listen to me. I have listened to you, and I've heard the truth. So please do us both a favor and leave." But he didn't leave. Instead, he moved closer to where the nurse was cleaning our son, his expression transforming into something I had never seen before. Wonder, awe, tenderness. "He's beautiful," Dante whispered, one finger gently touching our baby's tiny hand. The baby gripped it instinctively, and I watched Dante's face crumple. "God, Kai. He's perfect." Despite everything, seeing Dante hold our son did something to my Omega instincts. They screamed at me to forgive him, to let him stay, to rebuild our family. But I forced those instincts down. "Put him down and leave," I said quietly. Dante looked at me, and for the first time since I had known him, I saw tears in his eyes. "I know you hate me. I know I deserve it. But please don't keep me from him. I'll do whatever you want." Sign whatever papers you need. Just please let me be part of his life. I wanted to say no. Wanted to tell him to get out and never come back. But looking at my son's tiny face, I couldn't do it. Whatever Dante had done to me, this baby deserved to know his father. You can visit, I finally said. But that's all. You're not his dad. You're just a donor. Someone who provides genetic material and financial support. Nothing more. The words clearly hurt him, but he nodded. Okay. Whatever you want. Just thank you. He stayed for another hour, sitting in the corner chair and watching our son sleep. He didn't try to talk to me, didn't try to explain or defend himself. He just watched, his expression a mixture of wonder and regret. When visiting hours ended, he stood reluctantly. What's his name? I hadn't thought about it. In all my planning and preparing, I had never settled on a name, somehow thinking Dante and I would choose it together. Ash, I said finally. His name is Ash. Dante smiled, sad and genuine. It's perfect. He suits it. Then he left, and I was alone with my son. This tiny, perfect being who would be my entire world from now on. The next morning, I woke to find Dante back in the corner chair, a coffee cup in one hand and a small stuffed wolf in the other. When he saw I was awake, he held up the toy almost sheepishly. I thought he might like it. I should have told him to leave. Should have reminded him that he was just a visitor, not part of our lives. But I was exhausted and sore, and my hormones were everywhere, so instead I just nodded. Dante set the wolf in the bassinet next to Ash, and then turned to me. Can we talk? Please? There's nothing to talk about? I think there is. He pulled the chair closer to my bed. That conversation you overheard, Kai. I need you to understand the context. The context? I laughed harshly. The context was that you told your best friend I was just a heat toy. That you never loved me. That I was temporary and convenient. What possible context could make that okay? You're right. He held up his hands. There's no context that makes what I said okay. But I need you to know why I said it. I don't care why. Please. Just let me explain. Then if you still want me to leave and never come back, I will. I studied him for a long moment. He looked terrible. His eyes red-rimmed, his jaw covered in stubble, his hands shaking slightly. Part of me wanted to send him away just to hurt him the way he had hurt me. But another part, the part that still remembered how safe I'd felt in his arms, wanted to hear what he had to say. Fine, I said finally. You have 5 minutes. Dante exhaled in relief. Thank you. He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. That conversation with Riker, it wasn't what you think. It was exactly what I think. I heard you. You heard me lying. He met my eyes. Kai, my father has been pressuring me for months to end our relationship and bond with an Omega from one of the approved families. He thinks you're beneath me, that our child will be an embarrassment. He's threatened to cut me off from the family business if I don't comply. My chest tightened. So you chose your company over me. That's not exactly making me feel better. I didn't choose anything. Dante's voice grew urgent. That phone call, Riker was on speaker. My father was in the room listening. He had demanded I prove that you meant nothing to me, that this was just a temporary arrangement. If I had told the truth, if I had admitted that He stopped, swallowing hard. My father would have destroyed you. He has the money and connections to make sure you never work again, never find housing, never have any kind of life. I couldn't let that happen. I stared at him, trying to process his words. So you lied to protect me? I lied to protect us both. And I've been planning for weeks how to handle this, how to get out from under my father's control so I could be with you openly. But you left before I could tell you any of it. My throat felt tight. Why didn't you come after me? I did. I went to every place I could think of, called everyone who might know where you were. But you covered your tracks well. It wasn't until the hospital called that I knew where to find you. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to so badly, but I couldn't forget the casual cruelty in his voice during that phone call, the way he had dismissed me so easily. Even if that's true, I said slowly, it doesn't change what you said. Heat toy, convenient, temporary. Those words came from somewhere, Dante. He flinched. You're right, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to make up for them. But Kai, please believe me when I say I never meant any of it. You're not temporary. You're not convenient. You're... He stopped, his voice breaking. You're everything. The raw emotion in his voice made my heart clench. Don't. I love you. The words tumbled out desperately. I've loved you since the day we met, when you spilled coffee all over my suit and looked so horrified that I couldn't help but laugh. I love the way you hum when you're cooking, the way you scrunch your nose when you're thinking, the way you curl into me in your sleep. I love that you're carrying my child, that you're about to make me a father. I love everything about you, and I was an idiot for not telling you sooner, for letting you believe otherwise even for a second. Tears were streaming down my face now. I don't know if I can trust you again. I know. But I'm asking you to try. Please, Kai. Give me a chance to prove that you and Ash are my priority, that I'll stand up to my father, walk away from the company if I have to. Just please don't shut me out. Before I could respond, Ash started crying. Instinctively, both Dante and I moved toward the bassinet, but I got there first, scooping up our son and holding him protectively against my chest. Dante watched, his expression aching. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm not giving up. I'll prove to you every single day that I love you, that I choose you, that you're not just my omega, but my partner, my everything. He left before I could respond, and I was left holding our baby, my heart torn between wanting to believe him and being terrified of getting hurt again. The hospital discharged me 2 days later. Milo picked me up, cooing over Ash the entire drive back to the apartment. When we arrived, I found that Dante had already set up the spare room as a nursery, complete with a crib, changing table, and more baby supplies than one infant could possibly need. He's been here every day, Milo admitted, bringing things, asking about you and the baby. I told him to leave you alone, but he's persistent. That night, as I was feeding Ash, there was a knock on the door. Milo answered it, and I heard Dante's voice in the hallway. I just want to see them. 5 minutes, please. Milo looked at me questioningly. Despite my better judgment, I nodded. Dante came in carrying bags of food, my favorite takeout from the restaurant we used to go to together. I wasn't sure if you had eaten, he said quietly, setting the bags on the table. Thank you. We sat in awkward silence while I finished feeding Ash. When the baby fell asleep, Dante asked hesitantly, "Can I hold him?" I should have said no, should have reminded him that he was just a visitor. But watching the longing on his face, I couldn't do it. Be careful with his head. Dante took Ash with the reverence of holding something infinitely precious, cradling him against his chest. The sight of this powerful alpha, feared throughout the city, looking at our tiny baby with such open tenderness, did something to my resolve. He's so small, Dante whispered, so perfect. He looked up at me, and his eyes were wet. Thank you for bringing him into the world, for being strong enough to do it without me, even though you shouldn't have had to. Dante, I started, but he shook his head. You don't have to say anything. I needed you to know. He pressed a gentle kiss to Ash's forehead. I need both of you to know that I'm not going anywhere. I'll wait as long as it takes for you to trust me again." True to his word, Dante showed up every single day. Sometimes he brought food, sometimes supplies, sometimes just himself. He never pushed, never demanded anything, just asked to spend time with Ash and, if I allowed it, with me. Slowly, painfully slowly, I started to believe that maybe he really had changed, that maybe his love was genuine. 3 months after Ash was born, Dante arrived with news. "I've left the company," he said without preamble. "Cut all ties with my father. I'm starting my own firm, something that's completely mine, where no one can tell me who I can or cannot love." I stared at him in shock. "Dante, that's your whole life is that company. My whole life is right here." He gestured between Ash and me. "Everything else is just background noise." "What did your father say?" "Plenty. Most of it unprintable. But I don't care. Let him rage. Let him threaten. He can't touch what matters to me anymore." That night, after Dante left, I lay in bed and finally admitted the truth to myself. I still loved him. Despite everything, despite the hurt and betrayal and fear, I had never stopped loving him. The question was, could I trust that love again? 2 weeks later, I invited Dante to stay for dinner. Just the three of us, like a real family. He looked so hopeful when I asked that I almost cried. We ate together, passed Ash back and forth when he fussed, laughed at his baby sounds. It felt easy, natural, right. After dinner, I put Ash down for the night and found Dante standing at the window, looking out at the city lights. When he heard me, he turned. "Thank you for tonight. It meant everything." I stepped closer. "Dante, I I stopped, gathering courage. "I think I'm ready to try again, slowly, but I want to try." His face transformed with hope and joy and relief all at once. "Kai, I promise you won't regret this. I will spend every day showing you how much you mean to me." He pulled me into his arms, and for the first time in months, I let myself relax into his embrace. His scent wrapped around me, cedarwood and smoke and something uniquely Dante, and my omega instincts sang with contentment. "I love you," he whispered into my hair. "So much it terrifies me." "I love you too." I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "But Dante, if you ever make me doubt that again, if you ever call me a heat toy or treat me like I'm temporary, I'm gone, and I won't come back. I understand. And I won't. You're my forever, Kai. You and Ash both." He kissed me then, soft and sweet and full of promise, and for the first time since that horrible night when my world shattered, I felt like maybe, just maybe, we could build something even stronger from the broken pieces. 6 months later, Dante's new company was thriving, and we had moved into a house together, a real home that belonged to both of us. Ash was growing so fast, his dark hair just like his father's, his eyes bright and curious. One evening, Dante came home early and found me in the kitchen, Ash in a carrier on my chest while I cooked. He wrapped his arms around us both, pressing a kiss to my temple. "Marry me," he said simply. I turned in his arms, meeting his dark eyes. "What?" He dropped to one knee right there in the kitchen, pulling out a simple silver band. "Kai, I know I've already asked you to be my partner, my omega, the love of my life, but I want to make it official. Will you marry me?" Tears pricked my eyes. "You really want this? I've wanted this since the day I met you. I was just too scared and stupid to admit it." He took my hand. "So what do you say? Will you let me be your alpha officially? Let me stand beside you and promise to love and protect you for the rest of our lives?" I looked down at Ash, who was making happy baby sounds, then back at Dante. "Yes, God, yes." He slipped the ring on my finger and stood, pulling me into a kiss that made my toes curl and my omega instincts purr with satisfaction. When we broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. I will never take you for granted again, never make you doubt how much I love you. You're my everything, Kai. You and Ash. I know. I smiled through my happy tears. And you're ours. That night, after we put Ash to bed, Dante pulled me close in our bedroom. His hands traced gentle patterns down my spine, his scent wrapping around me protectively. I've missed this, he murmured against my neck, missed holding you like this. My body responded to his proximity, heat pooling low in my belly. It had been so long since we had been intimate, first because of my pregnancy, and then because of the distance between us. But now, with his hands on my skin and his lips on my throat, I wanted him with an intensity that stole my breath. Dante, I whispered. He pulled back enough to meet my eyes. We don't have to do anything you're not ready for. I'm ready. I pulled him down for a kiss that left no doubt about my desires. His control, already strained, snapped. He lifted me easily, carrying me to the bed and laying me down with a gentleness that contradicted the hunger in his eyes. His hands mapped every curve, relearning my body like precious territory. You're so beautiful, he breathed, trailing kisses down my neck. So perfect. His touch was reverent, worshipful, as if I was something sacred rather than simply his. Every kiss was a promise, every caress an apology, every whispered endearment a vow. When he finally moved inside me, filling me completely, I gasped at the perfection of it. This was what I had been missing, this connection, this completion, this feeling of being utterly safe and wanted and loved. I love you, he groaned, his hips moving in a rhythm that made stars burst behind my eyes. God, Kai, I love you so much. I couldn't form words anymore, could only hold on to him as pleasure built and built until I shattered, crying out his name. He followed seconds later, spilling inside me with a groan that sounded like prayer. Afterwards, as we lay tangled together, sweaty and satisfied, he pressed a kiss to my forehead. Mine, he murmured. Forever mine. Forever yours, I agreed, my omega instincts singing with contentment. Our wedding was small and private, just close friends and Milo standing up as my best man. Dante looked devastatingly handsome in his black suit, his dark hair perfectly styled, his eyes never leaving me as I walked down the makeshift aisle in our garden. When it came time for the vows, he took my hands and spoke from his heart. Kai, I promise to love you in sickness and health, in good times and bad. I promise to be the alpha you deserve, to protect and cherish you and our family. I promise to never make you doubt my love again, to show you every single day how much you mean to me. You are my heart, my home, my everything. I was crying before he finished, overcome with emotion. Through my tears, I made my own promises. Dante, you've shown me what real love looks like, the kind that's willing to sacrifice and fight and grow. I promise to trust you, to build our future together, to love you fiercely for the rest of our lives. You and Ash are my whole world. When the officiant pronounced us married and Dante kissed me, I felt complete in a way I never had before. This was real. This was forever. Our first year of marriage was filled with small joys and quiet moments. Ash taking his first steps, Sunday mornings in bed as a family, Dante building a successful company that let him be home for dinner every night, me finishing my degree online and opening a small bookstore with Mrs. Chen as my partner. Life wasn't perfect. We had arguments and disagreements and moments of frustration, but we worked through them together, always coming back to the foundation of love and trust we had fought so hard to build. On our first anniversary, Dante surprised me with a trip to the beach, just the three of us. We spent the day building sand castles with Ash. swimming in the waves, laughing until our sides hurt. That night, after Ash was asleep in the hotel room, Dante pulled me onto the balcony overlooking the ocean. The moon painted silver tracks across the water. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For giving me a second chance, for trusting me when I didn't deserve it, for building this beautiful life with me." I leaned into him, breathing in his familiar scent. "You've more than earned it." He turned me in his arms, cupping my face with both hands. "I love you, Kai, more than I ever thought it was possible to love someone." "I love you too." We kissed under the stars, the sound of waves crashing below us. His hands slid down my back, pulling me closer. The kiss deepened, hunger rising between us. "Dante," I breathed against his lips. He swept me into his arms, carrying me inside. We barely made it to the bed before his mouth was on my throat, my collarbone, trailing fire down my skin. "You're so beautiful," he murmured, his hands working at my clothes. "Every day I wake up and can't believe you're mine." I pulled him down for another kiss, my fingers tangling in his dark hair. "Show me," I whispered. "Show me I'm yours." His eyes darkened with desire. He stripped us both with reverent hands, his gaze drinking in every inch of exposed skin. When he finally settled between my thighs, the weight of him perfect and right, I arched into his touch. "I've dreamed about this all day," he groaned, his lips finding that sensitive spot below my ear. "Watching you play with Ash on the beach, so happy, so perfect. All I could think about was getting you alone." His fingers traced patterns down my spine, lower until I was gasping his name. The ocean waves provided a rhythm as old as time, and we moved together in perfect sync. When he finally entered me, filling me so completely I could barely breathe, I cried out. His name became a prayer on my lips as he moved, each thrust deeper than the last. "I love you," he whispered, over and over. "My Omega. My husband, mine." "Yours," I gasped. "Always yours." We moved together, pleasure building until it crashed over us like the waves outside. I shattered first, taking him with me, both of us crying out into the night. Afterwards, tangled in the sheets, his hand rested protectively on my hip. "That was—" He paused, searching for words. "Perfect," I finished. "It was perfect." He kissed my shoulder. "Every moment with you is perfect." 2 months later, I started feeling sick in the mornings. At first, I dismissed it as stress from opening the bookstore. But when it continued for weeks, Milo insisted I see a doctor. The news left me stunned and terrified and overjoyed all at once. Pregnant. Again. I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot, one hand pressed to my still flat stomach, my mind racing. We hadn't planned this. Ash was only 18 months old, but the tiny flutter of life growing inside me felt like a miracle. How would Dante react? Would he be happy? Worried? We'd never discussed having more children. That evening, I made his favorite dinner and waited for him to come home. Ash was already in bed, the house quiet except for the soft music playing in the background. Dante arrived right on time, pressing a kiss to my lips. "Something smells amazing. I hope you're hungry?" "Always." He paused, studying my face. "Is everything okay? You seem nervous." "I'm fine. Just sit down. There's something I need to tell you." His expression shifted to concern. "Kai, you're scaring me. What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong." I took a deep breath. "I'm pregnant." Silence. Complete silence. Dante stared at me, his face unreadable. "Dante? Say something." He blinked, then blinked again. "Pregnant? We're another baby?" I nodded, anxiety clawing at my chest. "I know we didn't plan this. If you're not ready, we can." I stopped as he suddenly dropped to his knees in front of me, his hands going to my stomach. Not ready? He laughed, the sound wet with emotion. Kai, this is God. This is the best news. Another baby, another piece of you and me. Relief flooded through me. You're happy? I'm ecstatic. He pressed his forehead to my stomach. Hey there, little one. Your daddy and I can't wait to meet you. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I was so worried you'd think it was too soon. Too soon? Never. He looked up at me, eyes shining. You've given me everything I never knew I needed. A home, a family, a reason to be better. How could I be anything but grateful? I pulled him up and into a kiss that tasted like salt and happiness and promises kept. The pregnancy was easier this time. I had Dante beside me every step of the way, attending every appointment, holding my hair when morning sickness hit, rubbing my swollen feet at night. Ash, now old enough to understand, was fascinated by my growing belly. He'd press his little hands against it and giggle when the baby kicked. Baby, he'd say proudly. My baby. That's right, sweetheart. Your little brother or sister. Dante spent his evenings reading to my belly, his deep voice soothing. Sometimes I'd wake in the night to find him talking quietly to our unborn child, sharing stories about our family, making promises to protect and love them always. One night, about 7 months in, I woke to find the bed empty. Following the soft light, I found Dante in the nursery we were preparing, assembling a second crib. Couldn't sleep? I asked from the doorway. He looked up, a soft smile on his face. Just wanted to make sure everything was perfect. I waddled over, my hand supporting my heavy belly. It's already perfect. He pulled me gently against him, his arms wrapping around me from behind, hands settling on my stomach. I keep thinking about that night I almost lost you when you left. I was so stupid, Kai. So blind. You weren't blind, you were scared. We both were. I'm not scared anymore. He kissed my temple. I know exactly what I want. This. Us. Our family. The baby kicked hard against his palm and he laughed. See? They agree. We stood there in the moonlight, swaying gently, his hands on our baby, Ash sleeping peacefully in the next room. And I knew with absolute certainty that this was home. Our daughter was born on a sunny spring morning. The delivery was quick. Almost too quick. Dante barely had time to get to the hospital before she arrived, screaming her displeasure at the bright world. She's perfect, Dante breathed, tears streaming down his face as the nurses placed her in his arms. Absolutely perfect. She had my blonde hair and Dante's dark eyes, a perfect blend of both of us. We named her Luna because she'd been conceived under the moon on our anniversary trip. Bringing her home was surreal. Ash was immediately smitten with his baby sister, wanting to hold her constantly. Careful, gentle, we'd remind him, and he'd nod seriously, his little face full of concentration as he cradled her. The first few weeks were exhausting. Luna wanted to eat constantly, and I was running on maybe 3 hours of sleep a night. Dante took over everything else, cooking, cleaning, entertaining Ash, changing diapers, anything to let me rest when I could. One particularly rough night, I was feeding Luna for what felt like the 100th time when Dante appeared in the doorway. Come here, he said softly. I need to finish, I started, but he gently took Luna from me. I've got her. You need sleep. But tears of exhaustion pricked my eyes. No buts. He pressed a kiss to my forehead. You've been awake for 20 hours. Sleep. I'll wake you if she needs you. Too tired to argue, I collapsed into bed. I woke hours later in the sunlight streaming through the windows and the smell of coffee. Dante was in the rocking chair, Luna asleep on his chest, one large hand cradling her tiny body. How long was I out? 6 hours. He smiled. She only woke once. I gave her a bottle. You should have woken me. You needed rest. We managed just fine, didn't we, little moon?" He kissed Luna's head. My heart swelled watching them together. This man who had once called me a heat toy was now the most devoted father I could imagine. "I love you," I said suddenly. He looked up, his dark eyes soft. "I love you too. Both of you, all of you." As the weeks turned into months, we found our rhythm. Dante's company continued to thrive, but he made sure to be home every evening for family dinner. We'd sit together, Ash chattering about his day at daycare, Luna gurgling happily in her high chair, Dante and I exchanging glances that said we wouldn't trade this chaos for anything. Our second anniversary came faster than I expected. Dante planned another trip, this time to a cabin in the mountains. My mother agreed to watch the kids for the weekend, giving us a rare moment alone. The cabin was beautiful, all wood and windows overlooking a pristine lake. The moment we arrived, the tension I'd been carrying for months melted away. "This is perfect," I said, standing on the deck. Dante came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. "You're perfect." I turned in his arms. 2 years married. Can you believe it? Best 2 years of my life. His hands slid lower, pulling me closer, and I planned to make every year better than the last. Big promises, I teased, but my breath was already quickening. "Let me show you I can keep them." He led me inside, to the bedroom with its massive bed and view of the sunset. His hands were gentle but insistent as he undressed me, his gaze worshipful. "Do you have any idea how beautiful you are?" He traced a finger down my chest, across my stomach where Luna had left faint marks. "Every part of you, every change, you're devastating." "Dante," I breathed as his mouth followed the path his finger had traced. He took his time, relearning every inch of my skin, finding all the places that made me gasp and arch. When I was trembling and desperate, he finally settled between my thighs. "Tell me what you want," he murmured against my neck. "You." I pulled him closer. "Always you." He entered me slowly, giving me time to adjust, his forehead pressed to mine. Our eyes locked as we moved together, the connection deeper than just physical. "I love you," he whispered with each thrust. "Love you so much." The pleasure built slowly, beautifully, until we tumbled over the edge together, my cries mixing with his groans. Afterwards, wrapped in his arms, I felt utterly at peace. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For not giving up on us. For giving me another chance. For these 2 perfect years," I kissed his jaw. "Thank you for proving you were worth that chance." We spent the weekend making love and talking about everything and nothing, reconnecting in ways we hadn't had time for with 2 small children at home. By the time we returned, I felt renewed, ready to handle whatever came next. What came next was Dante's father. I was at the bookstore when Dante called, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. "My father showed up at the office today." My stomach dropped. What did he want? To meet his grandchildren. He claims he wants to make amends. Do you believe him? A long pause. "I don't know. Part of me wants to. He's still my father. But after everything he put us through, I don't trust his motives." "What do you want to do? I want your opinion. They're your children, too." I thought about it carefully. If he's sincere, the kids deserve to know their grandfather. But we set boundaries, supervised visits only. And the moment he crosses a line, he's gone. Dante exhaled. "Okay, we'll try. But I'm watching him." The first meeting was tense. Dante's father, a tall, imposing alpha with silver hair and cold eyes, sat stiffly in our living room while Ash played with his toys and Luna napped in my arms. "They're beautiful," he said finally, his voice gruff. "The boy looks just like you did at that age." Dante's jaw was tight. "His name is Ash, and this is Luna. May I?" His father gestured to Luna. I looked at Dante, who gave a barely perceptible nod. Carefully, I placed Luna in her grandfather's arms. Something in the old Alpha's face softened as he looked down at her. "She has your mother's eyes," he told Dante quietly. I'd forgotten what that looked like. Dante's expression flickered with an emotion I couldn't name. Over the next few months, Dante's father became a regular presence in our lives. He was gruff and often stern, but he clearly loved the children. He brought them gifts, taught Ash to play chess, held Luna for hours without complaint. One evening after the kids were in bed, he asked to speak with us. "I owe you both an apology," he said, looking directly at me for the first time. "Kai, I judged you without knowing you. I let prejudice and pride nearly destroy my son's happiness. I was wrong." The words clearly cost him. Alphas like him didn't apologize easily. I thought bloodlines and social standing mattered more than love. But watching Dante with you and the children, he paused, emotion thick in his voice. "I see what real family looks like, and I'm ashamed I almost took that from him." Dante reached for my hand, squeezing it. "Thank you," I said quietly. "For being honest, I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope, in time, you might let me be part of this family. Not as the patriarch, but as a grandfather who wants to know his grandchildren." I looked at Dante. "The decision is yours too," he said. I thought about everything we'd been through. The pain, the separation, the slow rebuilding of trust. If we could survive all that and come out stronger, maybe forgiveness was possible here too. "You can be part of our family," I said finally. "But respect is earned, not demanded, and these children come first, always. Understood?" His father nodded. "Thank you for the chance." After he left, Dante pulled me close. "You're too forgiving." "Maybe. But I had to learn forgiveness too, didn't I? When you proved you'd changed." He kissed me softly. "I don't deserve you. You deserve happiness. We all do." Life settled into a beautiful rhythm. Ash started kindergarten, coming home with paintings and stories. Luna began talking, her first word predictably being Dada, while pointing at Dante, who nearly cried with joy. The bookstore became a community hub, hosting reading groups and children's story hours. Dante's company expanded, but he never let work consume him the way it once had. We had family dinners every Sunday, now including Dante's father, who had softened considerably with age and grandchildren. He and Ash had a special bond, the old Alpha teaching the boy everything from chess strategies to business principles, though we drew the line at teaching him poker. On quiet evenings, after the kids were asleep, Dante and I would sit together on the back porch, watching the stars. "Do you ever think about that night?" I asked one evening, when I overheard the phone call. "All the time." His arm tightened around me. "It haunts me. How close I came to losing everything. But you didn't lose it. We're here, because you're stronger than I ever gave you credit for. You could have stayed gone, raised Ash alone, built a life without me, but you gave me a chance to prove myself." I leaned into him. We both had to grow up, learn what really mattered, and what matters. He nuzzled my neck. "This, us, our family, everything we built from the ashes." He kissed me then, deep and slow until we were both breathless. "Want to know what I think about?" "What?" "How lucky I am. Every single day I wake up next to you and think how lucky I am that you chose me." "I chose us," I corrected. "We chose each other. Best decision I ever made." We made love that night under the stars, our bodies moving together with the ease of long familiarity but the passion of new lovers. Afterwards, wrapped in blankets, we talked about the future. "Do you want more children?" he asked suddenly. I laughed. Two is plenty for now." Why? Do you? I want whatever makes you happy. If you want more, I'm all in. If you're done, that's perfect too. I think we're good as we are. But ask me again in a few years. Deal. He kissed my temple. Though I should warn you, you're impossibly beautiful when you're pregnant. Dante, I swatted his chest playfully. It's true. Something about you carrying my child, knowing you're growing our baby. His hand slid possessively over my stomach. Drives me crazy. We're not having another baby right now, I said firmly, even as heat pooled low in my belly at his words. Right now, he agreed, but maybe someday. Maybe, I conceded. Years passed in a blur of school plays, birthday parties, family vacations, and quiet moments of connection. Ash grew into a thoughtful, kind boy who adored his little sister. Luna was fierce and funny, with a stubborn streak she inherited from me. On our 5th anniversary, Dante surprised me with a renewal of our vows. 5 years ago, Dante said, holding my hands, I made you promises I've spent every day keeping. Kai, you are my home, my anchor, my everything. I promise to love you fiercely, protect our family, and never take a single moment with you for granted. I was crying. Dante, you've given me a life I never dreamed possible. I promise to stand by you, to trust you, to build our future together for the rest of our lives. When we kissed, our children cheered. That night, Dante led me to our bedroom. 5 years and I still can't get enough of you. Only 5? I teased. We have at least 50 more ahead of us. He made love to me slowly that night, taking his time. When we finally came together, it felt like coming home. Afterwards, he said quietly, I need to tell you something. What? That phone call you overheard. My father didn't just demand I prove you meant nothing. He threatened to have you deported. Your asylum paperwork had irregularities. He had immigration connections. If I didn't convince him you were nothing to me, he'd have you sent back. I sat up, staring. What? Every word I said that night made me sick. But I thought if I could buy time, fix the paperwork, protect you legally, then I could explain. I was going to do it the week after. But you left. Tears slipped down my cheeks. All this time, you were protecting me? I was trying to. I failed. But yes, every terrible word was to save you from my father. I cupped his face. Why didn't you tell me before? Because it doesn't excuse what I did. I should have trusted you with the truth. We both made mistakes, but look where we ended up. He pulled me close. I love you so much it scares me sometimes. I love you too. Always. We lay there in the darkness, holding each other, 5 years of marriage and a lifetime of love stretching ahead of us. The next morning I woke to tiny feet padding into our room. Daddy. Luna climbed onto the bed. Dante scooped her up. What are you doing up so early? Pancakes, Ash said hopefully. Pancakes it is. In the kitchen, we worked together making breakfast. It was ordinary, domestic, perfect. This is nice, Ash said. What is, sweetheart? This. All of us together. My friend Tommy says his parents fight all the time, but you and Father never fight. We fight sometimes, Dante said gently, but we always work it out because we love each other. And we love you both so much, I added. After breakfast, Dante left for the office. I spent the day with the kids. When he came home with flowers, I knew he'd had a good day. That night, after tucking the kids in, we sat together. I was thinking we should take a family trip this summer, he said. Like where? Europe? Luna's never seen snow. Europe it is. We have a good life, don't we? The best. He tightened his arms around me. The absolute best. And as we sat there, the house quiet around us, our children sleeping peacefully upstairs, I knew he was right. We'd started from betrayal and heartbreak, fought our way through pain and mistrust, and built something beautiful and strong and real. But life had one more surprise waiting for us. 3 months later, I started feeling familiar symptoms: the exhaustion, the nausea, the way certain smells made me queasy. I took a test in secret, my hands shaking as I waited for the result. Positive. I stared at the little pink lines, emotions warring inside me: joy, terror, excitement, anxiety. We'd said we were done with 2 children, but here I was, pregnant again. This time I didn't wait to tell Dante. That evening I sat him down after the kids were in bed. "Remember how we talked about maybe having more children someday?" I started. His eyes widened. "Kai, you're pregnant?" I nodded, watching his face carefully. He was silent for a long moment. Then he started laughing, pulling me into his arms. "Of course you are. God, I love you. You're not upset? Upset?" "Kai, every child you give me is a gift. 3, 4, 10. I don't care, as long as you're healthy and happy." I buried my face in his chest. I'm terrified. Why, love? Because what if something goes wrong? What if I couldn't finish? "Hey." He tilted my face up. "We'll get through whatever comes. Together, like we always do." The pregnancy was rougher than the previous 2. I was sick constantly, exhausted all the time. Dante took over even more responsibilities, handling the kids' morning routine so I could sleep, cooking meals, keeping the house running. Ash and Luna were excited about becoming big siblings again. They'd fight over who got to feel the baby kick, who would get to hold it first, what to name it. At the 20-week ultrasound, we got news that left us both speechless. "Twins," the technician said cheerfully. "2 boys, see?" I stared at the screen, at the 2 tiny heartbeats. "Twins?" Dante's hand tightened on mine. "Twins," he repeated, sounding dazed. On the drive home, we were both quiet. Finally, he said, "5 children." "5 children," I agreed. "We're going to need a bigger house. We're going to need a lot of things." But he was grinning. "Kai, we're having twins. Are you happy?" I'm terrified and ecstatic and completely overwhelmed. So yes, I'm happy. We told the kids that night. Ash's eyes went huge. "2 babies? At the same time?" Luna frowned. "That's not fair. I wanted to be the baby." "You'll always be our baby girl," Dante assured her, scooping her up. "But now you get to be a big sister twice." The pregnancy was exhausting. Carrying 2 babies was harder than I'd expected. By month 7, I could barely move. Dante hired help, a kind Omega named Sarah, who came during the day to help with the kids in the house. One night, I woke to find Dante awake beside me, his hand on my enormous belly. "Can't sleep?" I asked. "They're so active tonight." He smiled as the babies kicked against his palm. "I was just thinking about how different my life is now from what I imagined. Better or worse? Infinitely better." He kissed me softly. "I used to think success meant money, power, my father's approval. Now I know it means this: you, our family, coming home every night to the people who matter most. Even when those people keep you awake at night? Especially then." The twins arrived 2 weeks early, via C-section because they were both breech. Dante was there, holding my hand as they lifted first one baby, then another, both screaming their displeasure. "Kai, look." Dante was crying openly. "Look at our boys. They were perfect, identical, with dark hair and tiny fists waving in the air. We named them River and Sky because I'd been watching the sunset over the river when my water broke. Bringing them home was chaos. 2 newborns who rarely slept at the same time, plus a toddler and a kindergartner. The house was constantly noisy, messy, full of life. Dante's father proved invaluable, taking Ash and Luna for whole weekends so we could focus on the twins. Milo brought meals. Sarah helped during the days. We survived on coffee and determination and love. 3 months in, I had a breakdown. I was feeding River while Sky screamed in his crib. Luna was crying because Ash had broken her toy, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. I started crying right along with them. Dante found me like that, surrounded by chaos, tears streaming down my face. He didn't say anything. He just scooped up Sky, calmed him down, then sorted out the fight between Ash and Luna. Within 10 minutes, the house was quiet except for River's nursing sounds. Then he came back to me. "You're exhausted," he said gently. "When did you last sleep?" "I don't remember." "Okay. Here's what we're going to do. Sarah's coming over. She's going to watch all 4 kids. You and I are going to our room, and you're going to sleep for as long as you need. But," I started. "No buts. You can't pour from an empty cup, love. Let me take care of you." I slept for 12 hours straight. When I woke, Dante was beside me, the baby monitor on his nightstand showing all 4 kids sleeping peacefully. "Better?" he asked. "So much better." I rolled into his arms. "Thank you, always." He kissed my forehead. "We're a team, remember? You don't have to do this alone." Over the next year, we found our rhythm. The twins started sleeping through the night. Luna started preschool. Ash excelled in 2nd grade. Our house was messy and loud and full of laughter. On our 7th anniversary, we couldn't go away overnight, but Dante's father took all 4 kids for the evening, giving us the house to ourselves for a few precious hours. 7 years, I said, curled up next to Dante on the couch. Can you believe it? Best 7 years of my life. His hand traced lazy patterns on my back, though I have to admit I'm exhausted. I laughed. We have 5 children under 8. Exhaustion is our default state. Worth it, though. Absolutely worth it. He pulled me onto his lap, his hands settling on my hips. "You know what I was thinking about?" "What?" "How much I still want you. Even after 5 kids, even when we're both too tired to think straight, I still look at you and want you desperately." Heat pooled low in my belly. "Yeah?" "Yeah." His voice dropped to that low register that always made me shiver. "Want to take advantage of having the house to ourselves?" God, yes. We made it to the bedroom, barely. 7 years of marriage, and he still made me feel like a teenager, desperate and aching for his touch. He took his time, relearning my body, finding all the places that made me gasp. When he finally entered me, we both groaned at the perfection of it. It had been too long, between exhaustion and children and life getting in the way. "I love you," he breathed against my neck. "Love you so much." We moved together, building slowly to that peak. When we tumbled over together, I thought my heart might burst from how full it felt. Later, tangled in the sheets, he said, "You know what?" "What?" "If you got pregnant again right now, I wouldn't even be surprised." I smacked his chest. "Don't even joke about that. 5 is plenty." He laughed. "5 is perfect. You're perfect. We have a good life," I said softly. "We have an amazing life." He pulled me closer. "And it's all because you gave me a second chance. We gave each other a second chance." I kissed his jaw. We built this together. Best thing I ever built. The kids came home an hour later, full of stories about their evening with Grandpa. We spent the rest of the night as a family, reading stories, giving baths, tucking everyone into bed. As Dante and I finally collapsed into our own bed, he reached for my hand. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For this. For us. For never giving up, even when it would have been easier to walk away." I squeezed his hand. "I love you, Dante." "Then now, always." Always, he echoed, and as we drifted off to sleep, surrounded by the sounds of our children breathing in their rooms, I knew that our story, which had started with such pain and betrayal, had become something beautiful. We'd built a family from broken pieces. We'd turned hurt into healing, mistrust into devotion, loneliness into love. And every single day I was grateful for the journey that brought us here. To this moment, to this life, to each other. This was our forever. And it was perfect. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe. It truly helps the channel grow. My beautiful heaven angels, tell me your thoughts in the comments. Which part did you like the most and where can I improve? I love reading and replying to your comments. It means the world to me. Let's meet again next time with a better story. Until then, I hope you all have a great time.